If someone has to tell you they're powerful, they probably aren't. If someone has to remind everyone of their importance, they've already lost it, because real power never introduces itself. Look around. Who argues the most? Who constantly tries to prove they're right? Who needs everyone to know how intelligent they are, how successful they are, how respected they are? It's almost never the truly powerful. It's the insecure, because confidence speaks, but insecurity makes speeches. Machiavelli understood one of the strangest truths about human nature. The more a man needs recognition, the less authority he actually possesses. Why? Because every attempt to prove yourself is an admission that you still need permission. Permission to be respected, permission to be admired, permission to matter. And the moment your value depends on someone else's approval, your power no longer belongs to you, it belongs to them. Think about a king. Does a king walk into his own palace, announcing that he's the king? Does a lion stop the entire forest to convince every animal that he's dangerous? No, because certainty doesn't advertise itself, only doubt does. This is why the most dangerous people in history were often misunderstood. They didn't waste energy defending their reputation. They built something that made explanation unnecessary. Machiavelli admired rulers who understood this principle. A prince obsessed with appearing strong usually made emotional decisions. He punished people to prove authority. He showed off wealth to prove status. He demanded loyalty because he secretly feared losing it. But the prince who truly understood power did something different. He remained composed. He didn't answer every insult. He didn't chase every rumor. He didn't feel the need to correct every misunderstanding because he knew something that most people never learn. The moment you start defending your value, you place your value in someone else's hands. And now, they decide whether your explanation was good enough, whether your success is impressive enough, whether your life deserves their approval. Without realizing it, you've made them your judge. Power begins the moment you stop standing in front of the court, asking to be understood. Instead, you quietly become undeniable. Your discipline speaks. Your results speak. Your reputation speaks. And suddenly, the people who demanded explanations yesterday begin explaining you to everyone else. Because real influence works backwards. Weak people use words, hoping they'll earn respect. Powerful people earn respect until words become unnecessary. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Every time you feel the urge to prove yourself, you're not protecting your reputation, you're protecting your ego. Those are two completely different things. One builds kingdoms, the other destroys them. The moment you stop explaining, you become dangerous. There comes a moment in every powerful person's life when they realize something that changes them forever. Not everyone deserves an explanation. In fact, most people don't even want one. They ask questions, not because they're searching for truth, but because they're searching for weaknesses. Machiavelli understood this better than anyone. Information is power, and every unnecessary explanation is a voluntary surrender of that power. Think about how most people react when they're misunderstood. They panic. They immediately start defending themselves. No, that's not what I meant. Let me explain. You've got me all wrong. They keep talking, keep justifying, keep trying to repair an image that only exists inside someone else's mind. And while they're busy defending themselves, they're giving away something far more valuable: predictability. The more you explain yourself, the more people learn how you think, what hurts you, what makes you emotional, what makes you insecure, what you're afraid of losing. Every sentence becomes data. Every defense becomes a map, and once someone has the map, they know exactly where to attack. Machiavelli believed that a ruler should never reveal his entire hand, because mystery creates uncertainty, and uncertainty creates caution. Notice how people behave around someone they completely understand. They're comfortable, relaxed, predictable. Now notice how they behave around someone they can't fully read. They become careful, they observe more, they assume less. Because the unknown commands attention. That's why powerful people don't rush to clear every misunderstanding. Sometimes being misunderstood is strategically better than being fully understood. Imagine two men. The first spends an hour convincing everyone that he's honest. The second simply lives honestly and says almost nothing. Which one would you trust more? Exactly. Truth doesn't become stronger because it's repeated louder. Machiavelli knew that reputation is not built by arguments, it's built by consistency. If your actions contradict the rumors, time will expose the truth. But if your actions constantly stop to fight every rumor, you'll never have enough time to build anything worth respecting. This is why emotionally weak people cannot stop explaining. Silence feels like losing, but emotionally strong people know something different. Silence often wins, because silence refuses to play a game designed by someone else. And here's the psychological trap. The more you explain yourself, the more people expect explanations. It becomes your role. Now every decision requires justification. Every choice needs approval. Every boundary needs permission. Without realizing it, you've trained people to believe they deserve access to every corner of your mind. Powerful people never allow that. They choose carefully what others get to know, not because they're hiding, but because they understand that privacy protects authority. Machiavelli would say, "A prince who constantly explains his decisions slowly becomes a servant to the opinions of his subjects." And the moment that happens, he no longer leads, he follows. So the next time someone demands an explanation, ask yourself one question. Are they trying to understand me, or are they trying to make me defend myself? Because those are not the same thing. And learning the difference may be one of the most powerful skills you will ever develop. Why powerful people stay calm when they're disrespected. One insult can reveal two people, the one who spoke it and the one who reacted to it. Most people believe that respect is defended by reacting, by arguing, by proving the other person wrong, by making sure everyone knows they won't tolerate disrespect. It sounds powerful, but Machiavelli saw something different. The person who controls your emotions controls you. It's that simple. The moment someone can make you angry on command, they've discovered a hidden switch inside your mind. And every hidden switch is a weakness. That's why truly powerful people rarely react immediately. Not because they didn't notice, not because they're afraid, because they're calculating. While everyone else is looking at the insult, they're studying the intention behind it. Why was it said? What was the person hoping to gain? Attention? An emotional reaction? A public argument? A loss of composure? Because every provocation has an objective. Machiavelli understood that the smartest rulers never fought emotions. They identified incentives. People don't do things randomly. Every action is trying to achieve something. Sometimes it's status, sometimes it's validation, sometimes it's control. And the fastest way to destroy someone's strategy is to refuse to give them the result they expected. Imagine someone throws an insult at you. They expect anger. Instead, they get composure. Now the script has been destroyed. They're forced to improvise, and people make mistakes when they're forced to improvise. This is why emotional discipline is intimidating, not because it looks impressive, because it creates uncertainty. People don't know how to manipulate someone who refuses to react predictably. Most people are easy to control. Praise them, and they'll become attached. Criticize them, and they'll become defensive. Ignore them, and they'll chase. Everything about them is predictable. But the powerful person breaks that pattern. Compliments don't inflate their ego. Criticism doesn't destroy their confidence. Silence doesn't make them desperate, because their identity doesn't depend on external reactions. Machiavelli admired leaders who remained emotionally independent, not emotionally cold. There's a difference. Being cold means you stop feeling. Being powerful means you feel everything, but you decide what deserves a response. That decision changes everything. Because not every battle increases your status. Some battles reduce you to the level of the person who started them, and once you're fighting on their battlefield, they've already won. This is why powerful people ask a different question. Not, should I respond? But, what happens if I do? Will this move me closer to my objective, or will it simply satisfy my ego for a few temporary seconds? Machiavelli would choose the objective every single time. Because ego seeks immediate victory. Power thinks long-term. The strongest people understand something that most never will. Every reaction has a price. Sometimes the price is your peace. Sometimes it's your reputation. Sometimes it's your authority. So they spend their reactions the same way wise men spend money. Carefully. Only when the return is worth the cost. And that's why the most powerful person in the room is usually not the loudest, not the angriest, not the one trying to win every argument. It's the one who has mastered the rare ability to remain completely in control of the only thing that truly belongs to them, their own mind. Stop seeking validation. It makes you easy to control. There is an invisible addiction that destroys more potential than failure ever could. The addiction to being approved. Most people don't realize they're addicted because it doesn't look like an addiction. It looks like being polite, being agreeable, being a good person. But underneath all of that, there is a question silently controlling their life. Do they like me? That single question has destroyed more confidence than criticism ever has. Machiavelli understood something ruthless about human nature. The person who needs approval will eventually sacrifice truth to receive it. At first, the sacrifices are small. You laugh at jokes that aren't funny. You agree with opinions you don't believe. You apologize, even when you've done nothing wrong. You hide your real thoughts because you're afraid of losing acceptance. And little by little, you stop living your own life. You begin performing. Every conversation becomes an audition. Every decision becomes a vote. Every room becomes a courtroom where you're constantly waiting for the verdict. Without realizing it, you've handed strangers the authority to define your worth. And the moment someone discovers that your self-esteem depends on their opinion, they don't need to control your actions anymore. They only need to control your approval. Machiavelli knew this was one of the oldest forms of power. If a ruler could make people desperate for recognition, they would obey voluntarily, not because they were forced, because they were hoping to be accepted. Look around. How many people change their personality depending on who's watching? Confident with one group, silent with another, funny here, serious there, not because they're adaptable, because they're terrified of being rejected. Powerful people are different. They don't ask, what version of me will they like? They ask, what version of me is true? And then they stay consistent, even if it costs them popularity, because they understand something that most people never learn. Respect is often born where approval dies. You cannot be respected by everyone. It's impossible. The moment you stand for something, someone will disagree. The moment you set boundaries, someone will call you selfish. The moment you stop explaining yourself, someone will call you arrogant. Machiavelli would smile at this, because criticism is often proof that you've stopped living according to someone else's expectations. Here's the paradox. The more desperately you try to be liked, the less memorable you become. Why? Because you become predictable. You say what people expect. You do what people approve of. You avoid discomfort. You avoid conflict. You become safe, and nothing is more forgettable than someone who is always trying to avoid disappointing everyone. But the person who doesn't need constant approval moves differently. They can say no. They can walk away. They can disagree without feeling guilty. Not because they're cruel, because they are free. Freedom begins the moment your decisions are no longer negotiated through other people's opinions. Machiavelli believed that every leader eventually faces a choice. Be loved at the cost of your authority, or be respected by standing firm when it matters. The strongest people don't spend their lives asking to be accepted. They spend their lives becoming impossible to ignore, because they know one final truth. Approval can be taken away overnight, but self-respect, once earned, cannot be stolen by anyone. The more you prove yourself, the less they believe you. There is a strange law of human psychology. The harder you try to prove your value, the more people begin to question it. Think about it. When someone constantly tells you they're intelligent, you immediately become skeptical. When someone repeatedly says they're honest, you start wondering why they feel the need to say it so often. When someone keeps reminding everyone how successful they are, it doesn't create admiration, it creates doubt. Because confidence doesn't need repetition, only insecurity does. Machiavelli understood that authority loses its strength the moment it begins asking to be recognized. Real authority is accepted. It isn't advertised. That's why truly powerful people don't spend their lives making statements about themselves. They let reality make those statements. Most people believe respect comes from convincing others. It doesn't. Respect comes from consistency. If your actions repeatedly prove who you are, your words become unnecessary. But if your words are constantly trying to compensate for your actions, people notice. Maybe not consciously, but psychologically. They feel the imbalance. Because human beings don't trust declarations. They trust patterns. A pattern cannot lie. Anyone can say, "I'm disciplined." Very few people wake up every morning and live with discipline. Anyone can say, "I'm confident." Very few remain calm when they're criticized. Anyone can say, "I'm successful." Very few continue working when nobody is watching. That's why actions carry weight. Words only carry intention. Machiavelli's philosophy teaches that reputation is built through repeated behavior, not repeated explanation. The more your life reflects your values, the less you'll feel the urge to defend them, and eventually, something interesting happens. People stop asking who you are, because your behavior has already answered the question. That is the moment real power begins, when your presence becomes more convincing than your promises, when your consistency becomes louder than your opinions, when your results speak before you ever have to, because the strongest statement you can ever make is living in a way that leaves nothing to explain. The moment you stop seeking recognition, you become unpredictable. One of the greatest advantages of never proving yourself is that people never know exactly where you stand. Most people reveal everything. They reveal their ambitions, they reveal their strengths, they reveal what they're proud of, and most importantly, they reveal what they desperately want other people to notice. The moment you know what someone desperately wants, you know how to influence them. If a man desperately wants to be seen as intelligent, you can manipulate him with compliments. If he desperately wants to be respected, you can control him with approval. If he desperately wants to appear successful, you can pressure him by threatening his image. This is why Machiavellian philosophy places so much importance on self-control. The person who doesn't need recognition cannot be manipulated through recognition. Read that again. The person who doesn't need recognition cannot be manipulated through recognition. That is freedom. Most people believe power comes from making others admire you. Real power comes from no longer depending on admiration, because dependence creates vulnerability. And vulnerability always leaves a door open. Powerful people close that door. They don't chase compliments. They don't fish for validation. They don't tell stories just to impress the room. They understand something most people never realize. The more you try to shape people's opinion of you, the more your emotional state becomes controlled by their opinion. Now your confidence rises when they praise you and falls when they criticize you. Your peace depends on strangers. Your identity depends on an audience. That is not confidence, that is emotional slavery. Machiavelli understood that the strongest position is psychological independence. The moment your self-worth no longer depends on being recognized, people lose one of their most effective weapons against you. They can't flatter you into making mistakes. They can't shame you into defending yourself. They can't bait you into proving your value, because you've stopped playing that game completely, and something fascinating begins to happen. People start paying closer attention to you, not because you're demanding attention, but because you're no longer asking for it. There is something deeply intriguing about a person who doesn't seem hungry for recognition. People naturally begin asking themselves, why doesn't this person feel the need to impress anyone? And curiosity is far more powerful than performance. Instead of trying to convince the world that you're valuable, you become someone the world tries to figure out. That shift changes everything. Because the moment you stop chasing recognition, recognition starts chasing you. Stop defending your reputation. Build one instead. Most people make a critical mistake. They spend years trying to protect a reputation they've never actually built. The moment someone criticizes them, they rush to respond. The moment someone misunderstands them, they feel an urgent need to explain. The moment someone questions their ability, they immediately begin listing everything they've accomplished. But ask yourself something. If a mountain had to convince you it was tall, would you believe it more or less? The strongest things in this world don't announce what they are. They simply are. That is exactly how reputation works. Machiavelli believed that a ruler's reputation was one of his greatest assets. But reputation was never built through self-promotion. It was built through repeated actions that people witnessed over time. A single explanation might change someone's opinion for a moment. A consistent pattern changes it for years. That's the difference. Weak people try to manage opinions. Powerful people manage behavior, because behavior eventually shapes every opinion that truly matters. Think about the people you genuinely respect. Was it something they said about themselves, or something you observed over months, maybe years? Respect grows from evidence, not from declarations. This is why powerful people don't panic when they're misunderstood. They know one conversation cannot destroy what years of consistency have built. And if one conversation can destroy it, then it was never real in the first place. Most people are obsessed with today's opinion. Powerful people are focused on tomorrow's reputation. One thinks in moments, the other thinks in years. That difference changes every decision they make. Instead of asking, how do I make them believe me? They ask, what can I do repeatedly until belief becomes inevitable? Because they understand a simple truth. People forget what you say. They remember what they repeatedly experience. If every interaction with you reflects discipline, people will eventually call you disciplined. If every decision reflects confidence, people will eventually call you confident. If every action reflects integrity, people will eventually trust you, not because you claimed those qualities, because they experienced them. And experience is stronger than persuasion. That is why powerful people never waste energy trying to win every opinion. They invest that energy in becoming the kind of person whose actions make arguments unnecessary. Because in the end, the reputation you build in silence will always be stronger than the reputation you try to defend with words.